To all of you that were in my last video's comments telling me that I have no idea what I'm talking about, or that I didn't understand the books that I'm referencing, or that I am not intelligent enough to be talking about how men are using extreme violence as a critique of society, today I'm going to prove you wrong by doing a review of A Clockwork Orange, because I feel like you are the ones that need a comprehension class, because you guys are so far removed from what this book actually is about that I need to teach you guys. So watch your mouth, talk to me nice, and listen to this video. To all my followers, welcome back, my gorgeous viewers and readers. I hope your weekend was filled with hot, warm reads and thunderous classical music. And for those who lack context, last week I posted a video talking about how many men in art use violence or use extreme violence as a way to critique society. And many people had a lot of feelings about it, right? And I was just stating my opinion using psychology or my research in psychology, right? But yeah, I was called everything under the sun. There were a lot of people that were very respectful in their opinions, I have to say that, but there were also a lot of comments that were extremely hateful to the point of being disrespectful, right? But yeah, generally the main opinion was that many people thought, or many people got the feeling that I didn't fully understand the books that I was referencing. But in the comments, I mentioned that I was only using these books as examples of men using said violence or extreme violence in art, right? So today I want to do a full review of A Clockwork Orange, which is one of the examples that I used as a way of further explaining why in this case specifically the author is using extreme violence. As always, as a quick summary, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess is about Alex, who is a 15-year-old who loves to create as much chaos as possible. We're talking about theft, robberies, sexual abuse, rape, gang violence, murder, everything and anything under the sun, right? And he does it just out of enjoyment because he finds it exciting. And after a robbery gone wrong, he is sentenced to 14 years in prison. But after 2 years of being in said prison, he is released under the condition that he will go through a treatment called the Ludovico technique, where he is Pavloved into having a physical aversion to extreme violence. And once he is released, he finds himself just walking down the street and finding that the world has continued without him, but also that everyone that he has wronged is actually looking for revenge and actually are being violent towards him, and he cannot defend himself because he has an aversion to violence. The main topics that are discussed in A Clockwork Orange are not only the true nature of violence, which we see in Alex, the rest of his gang friends, but also in police as well, and society in general, but also we see how free will and communal responsibility also plays a major role in this book. As well, we see how rehabilitation is a term or is a topic that is also used, and how sometimes rehabilitation fails. And even when rehabilitation actually works, as an individual level, in society or as a communal level, rehabilitation is not as easy because people are still looking for revenge. One of the topics that I really enjoyed from the book was the fact that Anthony Burgess uses violence, or uses the nature of violence, as a way to explain characters or to explain the character's psyche, right? So for example, we see how Alex is naturally violent because that is something that is within himself, right? He's just violent because he enjoys it and because he gets pleasure out of it, right? Whereas all the characters, for example, all the characters that have been wronged by Alex and decide to be violent back, the nature of their own violence comes from revenge, right? So meaning that Anthony Burgess uses violence overall, or extreme violence overall, as a way to tell a story or the character's story. And that's something that I really enjoyed about the book. But also, it tells us a lot about Anthony Burgess himself. I have my notes over here, so apologies if I'm not looking at you guys directly. But one of the things that I found very interesting when doing research on the book and on the author was the fact that many experts in the author or in literature themselves, they mentioned that this novel could be inspired by but one accident that Anthony Burgess's wife had, or one life event that she had, which was in 1944 in London. She was attacked by, she was beaten up and robbed by a gang of American soldiers. So it is presumed that he took inspiration for the book after his wife's very real event. And in other sources, it also mentions that she was also gang raped, but in the source that I trust the most, it is not mentioned that she was raped. So I would just go with the website that I trust the most, which is the official website of the author, where it mentions that she was only beaten up and robbed by American soldiers during the Second World War. It is said, or it is heavily implied, that the author actually took it was influenced to write A Clockwork Orange based on this event. We also need to take into account that during the years of post-war, more specifically 1960s and 1970s, London and UK in general had a huge issue with crime, more specifically with how lenient the government was, right? So I would say that this success, or this conglomeration of events, actually really inspired Anthony Burgess to write A Clockwork Orange. And this is why we get all this sort of gang 1960s, 1970s inspiration, more specifically British gang culture, but also at the same time his own personal event or his wife's personal event. So I would say this is a conglomeration of Anthony Burgess' experience with the world, more specifically with antisocial behavior. In fact, this is what Anthony Burgess himself said in an interview. I think it's the job of the artist, especially the novelist, to take events like that from his own life or from the lives of those near to him and to purge them, to cathartize the pain, the anguish in a work of art. It's one of the jobs of art. I think it was D.H. Lawrence who said, "We shed our sicknesses in works of art." So in this sense, I would say this quote is very relevant to us, or to the video itself, because it shows us that he used all this pain that he himself was feeling and that his own voice had experienced, and tried to purge it, to cathartize it, right? And just to, in order to try and release the pain that was stuck within them. And what exactly did I say on my last video? I said that many artists are using this extreme violence as a way, as a fantasy of control, as a fantasy of power. And that's exactly what Anthony Burgess is doing in this book. He is using extreme violence as a way, as a fantasy, or as a way to purge and to control these emotions, to make them disappear, to make disappear the pain. That's exactly what he's doing. And that's exactly what I said that male artists are doing in said books, or are doing when using this extreme violence. You guys just did not understand a single word of what I said. Doubling down with what I said on my last video, there are two pieces of an interview that I think are very interesting and that actually prove my point. So on the first piece, it says, Anthony Burgess says that from the film of A Clockwork Orange, youth did not learn aggression. It was aggressive already, right? So the first thing that he mentions is that people are aggressive in general already, which makes sense if we read the book or if we watch the film, right? He is very much onwards into thinking that society in general, or individuals in general, are aggressive. But then when we look at one of the interviews that he did for the film, he actually explains, or he actually says, and I'm quoting, I saw that the book might be dangerous because it presented guilt, or at least harmlessness, as remote and abstract, something for the adult future of my hero, while depicting violence in joyful, dirty realms. Violence had to be shown, but I was sickened by my own excitement at setting it down. So, how I view these two pieces of an interview, first of all, he mentions that people are violent already, right? But it also shows, or the book shows and the film shows, that harmlessness or good is something abstract that cannot be reached, or is something that you just do as a way to mask in society, but in fact you're actually evil and you're actually violent, right? And also he himself explains that he was excited, that he actually enjoyed said violence, right? So you were telling me that he is using this extreme violence as a way to purge and to control all these emotions that he has and all this grief, but also he enjoys using this violence. Like, I can't be proving my point further. And this is my last point, I swear, but there are many sources that are actually quoting Anthony Burgess saying that he regrets ever writing the book, not only because it became his most famous work, which is something that he regrets ever writing, but also because of the way the film represented the violence, and also the way society just venerated said film, right? And for those who don't believe me or didn't believe me when I said that A Clockwork Orange and all the other books and the other examples that I showed were actually used and referenced by incels, here I have like multiple sources that show that these films, or like that this film and this book, A Clockwork Orange more specifically, is actually venerated as a cult film and as something that is Alex E's goals, right? Is something that they are looking forward to. And like the most specific one, and this is something that actually really scared me, is that one of the people that are in this forum more specifically, he says, well, they say, I don't want to I don't want to assume genders. This person says, it's the only film I can really stand watching without cringing. I just keep proving my point here, guys. As a quick conclusion, because I just keep proving my point, A Clockwork Orange is the perfect example of how many male artists use extreme violence as a way to create a fantasy of control. And usually, this fantasy of control and this fantasy of power are fantasies of controlling their own emotions, to release the emotions, the negative emotions that they have, which is usually aggression. And we see how much he enjoyed releasing said aggression and talking about aggression and seeing aggression, because the ultimate fantasy is to control this aggression and to control these negative emotions that he cannot release. That is literally the point of this book, even though we see that there are secondary topics like the violence in the government, or how rehabilitation actually doesn't work because there is violence within all of us. The main point of Anthony Burgess writing this book is because he had a fantasy of controlling his own emotions. That's all. And also, the incels actually love this film. They actually love this book. So I am proving my point over and over again. So you can't tell me shit. That's all for today, guys. For all of you who were on my video last week and that were commenting and having a respectful conversation, I actually want to thank you guys, because many of you actually raised really good, valid points that I used to I used in my research on this video. But for all of you that were trying to be sassy and were trying to be smart about it, go get a life. Go get a job, because this is giving unemployed behavior, okay? So I don't care what you think. I don't care the assumptions that you make about me. Go get a job. Leave your mom's basement, okay? You have bigger fish to fry than to care about me, okay? So keep it nice, keep it respectful, keep it demure. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video, and I hope you give A Clockwork Orange an opportunity, even though we talked about how it uses extreme violence, because there are some really good valid points on this book, more specifically how the government uses violence, or how the government tries to use rehabilitation as well. So if you have read the book, or if you have watched the film, please comment down below. Yeah, what are the topics or the discussions that you were most interested about from these pieces of art? And if there are any other books that are similar to this one that you recommend, please also put them down below, or you can follow me on my social media and we can discuss about it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day and great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.